All right, let's go on to red. Okay, so let's start off with Goblin Cohort, which is a 1-mana 2/2. It can't attack unless you played a creature spell this turn. But other than that, it's basically Goblin Guide. No, so not that good, but still, it's a downside, but not that much because you're going to be playing lots of creatures, and so you're going to be able to bash in a lot. Still have to test to see if this is going to withstand the test of time, but having 1-mana 2/2 can get in some early beats quite quickly. We got Insolent Neonate, great way to enable maybe a Madness, but also just 1/1 with Menace, really great when you put some pants on it or give him a sword. But also really good to pitch in for card advantage if you draw too many lands. We got Jackal Pup. This guy has been a classic staple in my main cube for quite some time. Recently, he became less powerful and wasn't able to keep up with the big boys like Zergo, Bellringer, and all that kind of stuff. Also, I recently got a Goblin Guide. So, really happy to see that this got a common reprinting. So now... we got a Jackal Pup in this wonderful cube and a beautiful Masters 25 foil. Next, we got Mog Fanatic. Man, this guy seems so innocuous, but when I started playing him in the 8-whack deck in Modern, I just realized that there's no lose with this card. You punch in, you get some early damage when he finally blows it up. If he spends a spell on it, you still get to ping him for 1. I mean, anybody who's played with Walking Ballista knows how annoying it is for your opponent, that they just go to remove it and you just remove the counters from it and ping them. So this guy always gets in, 2 to 4 damage for such a little guy. I love him. Curd Ape turns big when you got a forest. Really good signal to go into Gruul. Turns into a 2/3 for 1 mana for just owning a forest. Really, really great. So Goblin Trailblazer is a card I'm trying out. 2-mana 2/1 with Menace. Again, really good with boots or other equipment or auras on top of him. So really happy that I'm going to test him out, see how he does. And if I like him, I'll get him a foil and I'll keep him in the cube forever. We got Mog Flunkies. Can only attack or block when there's another person showing him the way. And so 2 mana for a 3/3 though. Again, kind of a downside, but not really because you should have plenty of creatures if you Gruul. Thermal Alchemist is a great card for just dealing a lot of extra damage. Great for the spells deck. You could just ping away, and this deals a lot. Honestly, the best format for this card is actually Two-Headed Giant, which I may do in this cube. You never know. But really glad I was able to get a foil. We also got Plated Geopede, another card that just bashes in for a lot, usually as a 3/3. Late game, not so much, but gets in the early damage, which really counts. Mog War Marshal is fantastic. It's another one of those cards that just didn't seem all that amazing until I played with it, and then it's just like, this card is awesome, it's bonkers, and you can, sack more Mog War Marshal, and you won't have to pay the echo cost. And anyways, usually it's 3 dudes seriously, and he's great. Got good old Kiln Fiend. This is basically a staple in the Is It Spells deck. Usually it's a win con, especially with cards like Temur Battle Rage, which is also in here. You shall see. Good old Mardu Scout. I think I need a 3/1 in white, but 3/1s usually trade up, and they usually deal a lot of damage if not dealt with quickly. So, Keldon Marauders is great. Deals damage when it comes in, deals damage when it goes out, and it's 2 mana for a 3/3. Love it. Really good for aggro. Minotaur Skullcleaver has actually really impressed me. It enters as a 4/2 with haste, and then after that, it's just a hill giant. But really hits hard the first time out, and then just turns into another creature that your opponent still kind of has to deal with. 2/2s will get on top of you pretty quick, especially when this one has haste. So, Hissing Iguana is wonderful. It reminds me a lot of cards with Afflict. Basically, it says, whenever another creature dies, Hissing Iguana can deal 1 damage to target player. So not only do them wrathing the board or blowing up all your creatures hurt them, but also if they throw down blockers or chumps, that hurts them as well. And so you attack with all your creatures, and anything that dies on either side, they take damage for. So it really puts your opponent into a really awkward situation when they're at single-digit health, and you got all these creatures, and if they deal with it, if they block them, they take damage. If they kill them, they take damage, and it really adds an inevitability to the game. So Hissing Iguana is absolutely fantastic. Thresher Lizard has actually been doing pretty well. He turns into a 4/4 if you have one or fewer cards in hand, which should happen if you're an aggro deck. Really great way to punch in. This is the common Hazoret, right? Right, guys? Yeah. Anyways, good card. I'm really happy with it. We got Cinder Pyromancer. I decided I needed a pinger in red, and getting to untap it whenever you cast a red spell is fantastic. It can fit into burn decks, but also into the Is It Spells deck. And honestly, I would still run this just as a pinger, even if I didn't run tons and tons of red spells. I wouldn't necessarily splash for it, but having 2 pingers in the cube is really, really great. So we got Brazen Wolves, which attacks in as a 4/3, but otherwise it's just a 2/3. Another just really heavy beater. You know, not a flashy card, but man, he puts in some work. Voldaren Duelist is great. 3/2 with haste comes into play. Target creature can't block. This can sometimes lead to the death of your opponent. Just they finally stabilize with a big fat creature, or more importantly, maybe a creature with lifelink, and you say if that can't block, punch in. And he has haste, so he's getting in on the action too. So, or is it a she? I think it's a she. Anyways, getting in on the action, put in a lot of good work. Love my Voldaren Duelist. Pyrehound, good for the spells deck. Gorehorn Minotaurs is kind of filler right now, but honestly can get pretty nasty. You know, you just got to bolt them, and then you got this great 5/5 that can beat in. We got Goblin Heel Cutter, another thing that forces your creatures not to be able to block. It's got dash as well, so can do some good work there. Beetleback Chief, good with lots of tokens, makes some wonderful creatures, and then you can kind of do Trumpet Blast-like effects to really take advantage of this, but tokens are great. Mad Prophet for Mad Profits. This is just a really good card to get in some damage if they don't have creatures, but also to get rid of lands. I just think he's really, really solid, and puts in some good card advantage for those aggro decks. Nearheath Stalker hasn't seen as much play as I would like, but I don't know, maybe he hasn't found the right deck yet, so I'll keep an eye on him. But it's hard to find 5 and 6 mana big things in red, just because a lot of them are dragons and not common. So I decided to get this guy as a 4/1, then turns into a 5/2. 2 guys in 1. I think that's pretty decent. So we got Stormfleet Pyromancer, something I'm trying out. Kind of like a Flame Tongue Kavu kind of ability. When it comes into play, you can shock something if you've attacked with a creature. So I'm promising. Trying to figure out if this guy's going to be good or not. Manticore of the Gauntlet is a really great way to fling creatures. I really like him to put a -1/-1 counter on, you know, a creature that you don't care about anymore. That's just not relevant in combat. And just deal 3 extra damage and maybe get a 5/4. Even turning this into a 4/3 and dealing 3 damage to your opponent is still quite good. It gives red some reach, and I like it a lot. The last card, or the last creature card we have, is Suncrown Hunters, and I'm really happy that this got printed. I don't remember what I was running before, but you know, if you ever just do a card search for 6 mana pauper creatures in red, it's pretty abysmal, I'll be honest. A lot of overcosted stuff. A lot of there's some M14 card that's like 6 mana for a 3/4 with Intimidate. It's just not good stuff. This guy's great. He's a 5/4, so he beats in for some good amount of damage. It can trade with some of the green creatures if he runs into them. But whenever he's dealt damage, you deal 3 damage to target opponent. So really good to swing in. It's really hard to chump with this thing because you'll still essentially get 3 damage trampling with the whole Enrage trigger thing. And I'm really happy to see how this guy does. So moving on to the spells, what cube would be incomplete without a good old Lightning Bolt? So we got a Lightning Bolt. I do have a shiny one somewhere. Actually, I know exactly where it is. It's in my main cube. And it's funny, I'm actually getting more foils for this cube than my main cube, because as I said in my introductory video, this cube is just so much more fun to draft than my main one. I don't know if I'm a bad cube builder, but this cube is just great. So anyways, Lightning Bolt, good. Electrickery for token decks. Excuse me. We got Fiery Impulse. Just a really great way to kill a lot of threats, a lot of creatures, and clear a path for your dudes. Temur Battle Rage is an excellent way to win games. Obviously, like I said, pairs well with Red wine, sorry, pairs well with a lot of the creatures in Izzet. But you can also use this. I've seen Gruul players take this, or Boros players take this to just stick them. Just get that last point of damage in. Smash to Smithereens. This card isn't as relevant as it used to be because I don't have all the signets in the cube like I used to. But still is a good card. I still want to have some powerful artifacts. There's a fair amount of vehicles in the set as well, so this is just a great sideboard card to smash their trinket that's giving you trouble and keep getting in the damage. Searing Spear. This card was nice and cheap, and it's a Lightning Strike clone, and so I will get a foil Lightning Strike at some point, but for right now, Searing Spear is just fine. Good old Magma Jet. This card is best in the spells deck because not only can you bolt them for 2, but after you have your creature out and you have all the lands that you need, getting to scry away 2 lands and hopefully to draw into more spells to keep your dudes happy and very powerful. So I like the 2 damage and scry 2. Can also be good if you're running kind of a Jeskai control deck as well. Stagger Shock. This card puts in a lot of damage to your opponent. Can be just thrown to the dome, or more importantly, can make a 2-for-1. There's so many 2-for-1s in this cube, but that's what cube is about. Also, just looks gorgeous and shiny. We got Fiery Temper. There's a couple of discard outlets, so I don't mind running essentially an open fire, a 3-mana lightning bolt that can sometimes be a 1-mana lightning bolt. Like it a lot. We got Chandra's Outrage, which is just quintessential. Oh man, like when I first saw this card or played against this card, it's just so brutal. 4 damage kills most things, and then 2 damage to the dome. Just a really great way of just saying, no, sorry, you're not stabilizing this turn. I'm going to keep punching in the damage. So glad I just got a foil the other night. Flame Slash, the only downside to this card is that a foil does not exist. This was in the intro decks from Kaladesh, and it's just 4 mana for 4 damage anywhere you want. And I want this in shiny. If they ever make a shiny, I'm getting it. But 4 mana for 4 damage anywhere you want is quite good. And I like having burn spells higher up on the curve. Speaking of higher up on the curve, not really. Fire Blast. So Fire Blast deals 4 damage to a creature or player just like this, but it costs 6 mana. But you're never going to be casting this for 6 mana, man. You're going to be sacking 2 mountains, and when you're completely tapped out, and people think you don't have anything more, you just sack 2 mountains and you should get them. Really great finisher, really great way of killing somebody off. And you can do it for basically free. So we got 2 auras, 2 enchantments in red. We've got Cartouche of Zeal, which makes a creature can't block and gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 in haste. And then we've got Madcap Skills, which the only downside of this specific version is that it doesn't have the new text on it. So the equipped creature gets +3/+0 and Menace, but it spells it out here. That's fine though. In fact, a lot of the people that I play with are still pretty new to the game, so they don't actually know what Menace does, and so it's nice for them to be able to just read it. But this card just gets in so much damage. Again, a lot of times control decks will want to just throw down some big lifelinker and stabilize, and this just says, no, you can't block my biggest dude. So, really great. Pretty foil, too. Now we're getting into the sorceries. We got Flame Slash to get rid of creatures. We got Flame Rift to deal 4 damage to each player. That's really just for aggro decks. You don't care that you're at 16, because you're just dealing the beats, and 4 damage for 2 mana is not bad at all. Breath of Dirigize, again, this is 1 damage to each creature without flying, but if it was kicked, it's 4 damage to each creature with flying instead. So this is a 4 mana board wipe in red, and so that's just way sweet. We've got an Arc Lightning, very, very flexible burn spell. You can just divide it up any way you choose. Hordling Outburst, another card from Masters 25 that I'm so happy got a reprint at Common. We got Puncturing Blow to exile big creatures. We got Pyrotechnics to be able to divide 4 damage any way you want. And then we've got Rolling Thunder for those big green and red ramp decks. So that is red, and we're going to be going on to green next. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.